Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to explain the Binance Perpetual grid trading strategy. This is the third strategy on our FMZ Quant Trading Platform self-operated strategy. We can see it in the strategy square here. By clicking the strategy link, we can go to the strategy purchase page. Here is a strategy explanation. Of course, I have already purchased the strategy. On the dashboard page here, in our own strategy library, we can see it is here. We can click on the strategy name to go to the strategy description information. Here is the description page. The strategy is called the Binance Perpetual Single Currency Grid Strategy. A perpetual contract is a contract that will never be delivered, which means that a grid operation can be performed, similar to the spot trading, but it is more convenient than spot trading. In the USDT-based perpetual contract trading on Binance, compared to spot trading, it is possible to short without holding currencies. And all trading returns are calculated by using USDT. Of course, contracts can also have some leverage, and compared to the spot trading, spot grid strategy, the use of the perpetual contract grid strategy is simpler and more convenient. However, we need to pay attention to the risk of liquidation of the strategy. Unlike the spot trading, we need to pay attention to the risk of liquidation, as well as all contract transactions have liquidation risk. In the spot market, for example, if we have incurred a significant floating loss, we can still bear it. But in the contract market, you need to pay attention to the risk of liquidation. The principle of the specific grid strategy is basically the same as that of the spot grid strategy. If you are interested, you can take a look in the description and click the link to go to the library of the FMZ Quant Trading Platform to view this article. There are two main parameters in the strategy setting. One is the grid transaction value and the other is the grid spacing ratio. If the grid spacing ratio is set to 0.01 and the transaction value is set to 500 USDT, it means that for every 1% increase in the price of the currency, the position with a value of 500 USDT is shorted. Similarly, a decline is a long position. The strategy needs to rely on fluctuations to make profits. And if the price returns to the initial price in the future, it will realize the profits brought by the grid. If there is a trend in the market, such as 100 increase in a day, our strategy will result in a significant floating loss. And when the losses are significant, there's even a risk of liquidation. In addition, trading pairs also need to be more active in, in fluctuations. That is, there are many fluctuation patterns, allowing the network to make low interest and high selling repeatedly. This kind of market will increase profits for the greed strategy. The main risk of the strategy is the risk of liquidation. As futures have leverage, and greed strategy belongs to the strategy of adding positions against the trend of low interest and high selling. If the position is too large, there may be a risk of liquidation. In terms of exchange APIs, if there are abnormalities or errors in the exchange APIs, it may also cause some problems. However, generally speaking, the API interfaces of the three major exchanges are relatively stable. In reality, we need to pay more attention to the operation of strategies, which means we need to pay attention to potential issues in this area. In terms of rates, basically, there is no need to worry too much, because if the price of the greed strategy increases, it is short selling, and the price increase is relatively large. Usually, the rate is a positive rate, and we are short selling, and we can usually gain benefits from the rate. If the price decreases a lot, it is the opposite. It is going long. At this point, there is a high probability that the rate will change from positive to negative, and we can also benefit from the rate. Therefore, we usually don't have to worry too much about the loss in this aspect of the rate. Let's take a look at the strategy menu. In the first line of the menu, we remind everyone that when using greed strategy, we need to be aware that greed strategy is not a risk-free arbitrage strategy. It is a risky strategy when the unilateral market is relatively large. There may be a risk of liquidation. That is, when the position is large, there may be a risk of liquidation, which should be noted. When using the strategy, it is important to note that it requires adding the Binance Futures exchange and adjusting the strategy to a one-way position mode. If not set, the strategy will change automatically. If the strategy is changed to a one-way position mode, do not change it into a two-way position mode manually. This strategy cannot be backtested. During the operation of the strategy, we cannot operate the buying and selling of the account manually. Otherwise, it will cause some data to be distorted during the operation of the strategy. Because it is a robot strategy, it does not know what we operated manually. And at this time, there will be some data confusion, resulting in logical problems. When stopping the strategy, a robot can be used to stop and then close the position manually. Trading pairs cannot be changed on the same robot. We would start with the subject matter of a perpetual contract in BTC USDT. It cannot be stopped halfway through its operation and change it to Ethereum. If we were to do something else, we need to rebuild a robot, because it may record some data in some transactions. If we change the trading pairs, the data will not match. Domestic servers are usually unable to connect to the Binance exchange directly. We need to use the overseas servers. And we can choose Alibaba Cloud in Hong Kong, or rent Amazon or Alibaba Cloud by ourselves. We can also use the one-click rent a Docker VPS on FMZ platform. We recommend using servers in Tokyo to access the exchanges faster. If you have any questions about the strategy, you can leave a message below the strategy purchase page for feedback. Let's take a look at the description of the parameters. We can also create a robot. On the bot page, we click Add Bot. We choose the strategy. Binance USDT Perpetual Grid strategy here. After clicking on registration, we can see that there are these parameters. The first parameter is a leverage parameter here, which is to set the leverage during trading. The second parameter is the grid spacing ratio, which determines the placing order density of the grid. We can see in the menu page. If we set it to 0.01, it means that for every 1% increases in price, an order will be placed. The smaller the setting, the more frequent the transactions. But when the grid is denser, it is necessary to pay attention to whether the price difference between grids can cover the transaction fees. Next parameter is the grid transaction value. And the USDT value of the grid transaction determines the amount of the order. If we set it to 500, it means holding 500 USDT of short orders for each increase in grid spacing ratio. That is the position amount of a single node. If the grid spacing ratio is set to 0.01, which means the price has increased by 100%, we will hold a short order of 50,000 USDT. It is necessary to predict the market situation based on our own amount of funds and then set this parameter. The smaller the setting, the smaller the risk. That is, the smaller the holding scale of each grid node, and the greater the resistance to unilateral trends. If the position of each grid node we set are relatively large, a small upward trend may increase the risk of liquidation. Therefore, the smaller the grid trading value is set, the lower the risk. However, it cannot be set too small. Taking BTC trading pairs as an example, the minimum trading amount of the exchange is 0.001 BTC, which is equivalent to 50 USDT. If we set it too small, it may result in an order amount smaller than the exchange's order requirements. leading to an equal ordering. So this parameter is quite important. It cannot be set too large or too small. It needs to be based on the minimum order amount of the exchange. Our prediction of the market and our decision on how many nodes to pull and the speed range of the grid. We need to consider these factors comprehensively. Generally, the leverage value cannot be set too high, as it will limit positions. A typical 10 times lever can open 100,000 USDT. Similarly, we need to set according to the market situation and the amount of funds. Let's move on to the next parameter. Model selection. We can choose to do both go long and go short, or go long only, or go short only. When we choose to do both go long and go short, the price is higher than we expected return price, that is, the initial price. If we go short, and when the price is lower than the expected return price, it will go long. If we choose to go long only, the strategy will go long when the current price is lower than the return price. If the current price is higher than the return price, all the positions will be closed, and it will no longer go short. If we choose to go short only, the strategy will go short when the current price is higher than the return price, and close the short position when the current price is lower than the return price, and it will no longer go long. The expected return price. If we select to go long only, we can specify an expected return price that is higher than the current price. If we select to go short only, it should be lower than the current price. If it was not set, the default value is 0. That is, the initial price of the grid will be the price obtained when the robot starts from the first time, and it will also be read after restarted. If we change the Docker, we can set this parameter to the original value and continue to run. The next parameter is called the loop interval, which is mainly used to control the frequency of the overall strategy rotation, because there is a frequency requirement for accessing the exchange API interface. The exchange does not allow access to the API interface too frequently, such as accessing 100 times per second, which is too fast. The exchange may have refused the access or even banned the IP. So this parameter is used to control the frequency of the strategy rotation. For example, if we set it to 1 second, the strategy will rotate once, then reset for 1 second, so that our API interface access has a certain frequency control. These parameters of the strategy are relatively simple, and the strategy cannot be backtested. We do not have simulated futures trading either. So when it comes to usage, after configuring the Binance Exchange object, here click Add button. We added the exchange platform. We choose the exchange platform here. And we have also set the trading pairs. These strategy parameters are set before, and we name it as test. And select the Docker we deployed rather than the auto distribution. After all of these are set up, we can click to Add Robot, and the strategy will run. So that's all for today's explanation of Binance USDT Perpetual Contract Grid strategy. Thank you for watching.